Hello everyone and welcome to the February 24th edition of the Hacked.com weekly webinar series. My name is Sam Borgi, Chief Editor at Hacked. As many of you are aware, each week we do a recap of the major market movements in the cryptocurrency sphere over the past 7 days. This time last week we were talking about a broad reversal in the cryptocurrency market, about broad gains in Bitcoin and the altcoins. It seemed like the market had finally found a way out of the major correction that we saw through January and into the early February period. However, over the past few days, the market has seemed to pivot lower once again as the major coins came off their recent highs. Nobody is precisely sure why cryptos declined the way they did this week, although it seemed to have been motivated by profit taking, at least in part, as most of the headlines, or a lot of the headlines, were fairly favorable. And I'll repeat what I've said previously. I mean, the fundamental outlook on cryptocurrencies hasn't changed much. It hasn't changed since when the market was valued at $830 billion. It didn't really change when the market was valued around $276 billion a few weeks later. Overall, we're looking at a general calm in the market from a demand perspective, from a regulatory perspective. Nothing really stands out. Certainly nothing like we saw last September when China decided to put the clamp down on cryptocurrency trading. Anyway, we're going to cover all that and more in the agenda for today. We're going to give you a weekly recap of the market, looking at the global crypto sphere, Bitcoin and the altcoins. We also want to do a recap of Hacked.com and then look at some of the major themes that could impact the market moving into next week as we head into March. On that basis, let's go to the weekly recap. This week, we saw cryptocurrencies pivot lower. As I mentioned earlier, this time last week, we're reporting about a 16% gain in the market. This week, we saw the major coins decline double digits through the middle of the week, even through Thursday, I believe. Since then, the market has paired some of its losses, but we are still looking at a broad decline week on week. Bitcoin bottomed near 9650 according to charts provided by barchart.com after hitting highs near 11,800. So lots of volatility in the Bitcoin market, and Bitcoin is actually, as many of you are aware, a good proxy of the overall direction of the broader cryptocurrency market. Litecoin has also been subject to extreme volatility as of late. If you go back and look at our articles early on in the week, you'll see that Litecoin actually put up over 55% gains over the previous 5 days. The gains were largely motivated by positive business developments concerning Litecoin. The launch of LitePay, for example, was announced for later this month, which will help streamline payments and transactions in e-commerce and their ability to accept cryptocurrency payments. We also saw Litecoin rise in anticipation of last Sunday's hard fork. The hard fork created a new cryptocurrency essentially with the symbol LCC. However, the LCC hard fork, the new hard fork, it's called Litecoin Cash. It's not affiliated with the original Litecoin, according to Charlie Lee. So we saw big gains in Litecoin after the LCC hard fork, but since then the market has more or less erased those gains. So that's really some of the main themes that we saw in terms of cryptocurrency price valuations. And this chart here demonstrates how Bitcoin behaved over the past week or so. Obviously, this chart goes back a month. We saw the market bottom here near $6,000. Actually, I believe even it briefly dipped below 6,000, depending on the charts that you're looking at. We then saw the rebound close to 11,800 before the broad dip again. But again, since the market bottomed right here, February the 6th, we are in the midst of a broad uptrend in Bitcoin. And this is also reflected more or less in the broader cryptocurrency market, which consists of over 1,500 coins. Now, there's been a lot of market developments this week as well, if you're paying attention to the news. Venezuela launched the Petro cryptocurrency, with the president, Nicolas Maduro, saying that $735 million was raised in the first day of the token launch. The Petro cryptocurrency is pegged to a barrel of Venezuelan oil. So obviously that was a big development. There's a lot of skepticism around the motivation behind the petro cryptocurrency. Not only are traders skeptical about the amount that was referenced by Maduro, but they're also skeptical about the reasons why Venezuela launched this cryptocurrency. It could just be a way to raise money to cover more of that country's debt. If any of you, of course, are familiar with Venezuela, you'll know that it probably is the worst economy in the world right now. The bottoming of the oil price collapse in 2016 ravaged the economy, obviously based on central planning and only central planning. Since then, the economy has been fighting brutal recession, sky-high inflation, crime, immigration, people fleeing the borders. Another example of central planning gone wrong. And we've seen this time and time again. I don't want to get off on a tangent on the problems associated with central planning, but Venezuela was, for many people who abide by central planning, it was considered a model economy and that we should be exporting Venezuela's model to Western countries. Well, since Venezuela turned into The Walking Dead without the zombies, people have been biting their tongue when it comes to talking about the virtues of the Venezuelan economic model. And now many of them are essentially disavowing that model or saying it wasn't implemented correctly. So not to get off on a tangent, but Venezuela is in a world of trouble, and that could possibly be the reason why it's considering a cryptocurrency. Iran is another example. Obviously, the country has been subject to significant sanctions by the United States and by the West. That has really limited its ability to integrate into the global economy. So Iran is also considering a state-run cryptocurrency. Turkey, I believe, is as well. Other countries that have been mulling the idea include Russia. We've all talked about the crypto ruble, Kazakhstan, as well as Estonia. France also announced plans to clamp down on unregulated cryptocurrency exchanges. Some other news in the market when it comes to regulation. Also, for any of you familiar or following the ICO or the token raise economy, you'll know that a project by the name of the Abyss, which is part of the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance, is becoming the first digital currency project to employ the DACO model. It claims it will follow Vitalik Buterin's DACO, which is based on the concept of the DAO. We've written a few articles on DACO on hack.com, essentially talking about how we're going to be applying, or how Vitalik is looking to apply the DAO model to the ICO model to create a more transparent cryptocurrency market, to create a more transparent token raise economy. And the Abyss, which is essentially, from what I understand, a gaming platform, will be the first to pilot DACO. I don't want to get too much into it here because it's a pretty lengthy discussion. If you go to hack.com and you type in DACO, you'll get a couple of articles that talk about what this model entails, how it aims to solve the issues with ICOs, and what the Abyss is looking to do in this economy, or in this model, using this model. So this chart here simply demonstrates the cryptocurrency market cap over the past 7 days. You see it was well over 500 billion earlier in the week, probably closer to 518 billion. We've since declined briefly below 425 billion. At last check, we were above the 425. We're between 425 and 430, according to coinmarketcap.com. So that was cryptocurrencies. We're also heavily involved in monitoring the stock market, the commodity market, as well as looking at volatility. We saw stocks extended their recovery over the last week, mostly thanks to gains on Friday. The major indexes on Wall Street ended the week on a high note. As a result, the S&P and the Dow recorded their second straight weekly gain due to that strong finish. The CBOE VIX, which is the barometer of investor anxiety, the volatility gauge, declined sharply on Friday to close well below the historical average of around 20. Those of you following monetary policy will know that the Fed minutes more or less pointed to faster rate hikes in the foreseeable future. Traders believe it's a foregone conclusion that the Fed will raise rates next month at their next meeting. So obviously higher rates, or expectations for higher rates, were the main catalyst behind the stock market crash that we saw in early February. So pay attention to that and how monetary policy is interplaying with the stock markets. So having talked a lot about the market, cryptos and stocks, just want to give you a brief recap of the things that went on hack.com. We wrote a number of ICO analyses this week, including joint ventures, TE Food, and Cloud Moolah. We have many more scheduled over the coming days. The most read articles of the week include Why I'm Bullish on Stellar Lumens. I wrote this article last week, essentially expounding on my opinion. It was an op-ed piece about why I believe Stellar Lumens is one of the best cryptocurrencies in the market. And in my opinion, you got Bitcoin, you got Ethereum, you even got Litecoin. I think Stellar is up there in terms of potential. And I think that it has a lot more potential, in my opinion, than Ripple, right? They do promise to do similar things, but I believe Stellar has many advantages over Ripple, and you can read more about that article, more about those reasons in that article. Decoding Ripple was another top article of the week. We had a update on Litecoin when it touched 5-week highs in the wake of the hard fork. An ICO analysis of Friends was also up there. And an article I wrote there on cryptocurrency careers. As you know, the job postings for cryptocurrency are skyrocketing. Lots of information there about those of you who intend to make a career in blockchain or in cryptocurrency. In terms of what to watch heading into next week, we are looking at the crypto sphere stuck in a range. We saw the rally die off after hitting well over $500 billion in the previous week. Let's keep paying attention to crypto sphere and how the price action will evolve. Lots of economic data in the United States as well as in Europe. Lots of GDP reports that you could take a look at. It will impact investor sentiment. Lots of talk about the Bitcoin Lightning Network, the issues impacting scalability of Bitcoin. The Lightning Network is getting a lot of traction these days as a news item, so we want to continue to monitor developments on that front. Monetary policy as well. Fed governor, or I should say Fed chairman, Jerome Powell, will deliver his first testimony as chair to the Senate next week. And keep your eye on the ICO market. Lots more raises expected over the next 7 days or so. That covers it, everyone. We hope that it's been an informative webinar. Catch us again next week for another weekly installment of the webinar series. We'll be recapping the week that was in the market. Happy trading. We hope that it's been a good week, and let me know if you ever have any questions. Again, my email is sam@hack.com. We'll catch you next time. Take care.